All right, everybody, welcome back to the eHunter podcast. We are back again. I have Seth on the line with me again. What's up, Seth?
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing really good. How you doing?
Oh, not too bad. Pretty good.
I'm excited to move to Utah and have you come down and do these things in person. Like every week,
Fine.
right? You're going to come down
That's
every
fine.
week to do it, right?
My wife would have no problem with that, me being gone constantly. I don't see an issue.
You just need to move to southern Utah.
Yes. That would be awesome. When you move back, you find me a job,
Hey,
let me know, and we'll discuss. And then I can stay at your house until I work long enough that they let me buy a house down there.
I'm good with that. I'm good with all that. I'll ask my wife.
Nice.
Oh, shoot. Well, good, man. Well, we're back again with a podcast for you guys. It's going to be another Shooting the Bull podcast. We're really enjoying these, and it sounds like most everybody's enjoying these as well from the feedback that we're getting. Before we get any do you have any shout out? Wow. Let me start over with that. Holy cow. Before we get to it, Seth, do you have any shout outs for anybody tonight?
Just Vortex sponsor everything that we do.
Yeah, yep. Got to thank Vortex. We talked a little bit about their new scope last time, but yeah, just excited about some of the other new stuff they have coming out this year. Stay tuned for that. But do appreciate them; they're awesome. All right, well, let's jump into it. So tonight we're gonna talk. I always say tonight because we record these things tonight at nighttime, but you guys may be listening to this at any time during the day. But we're going to share a few stories with you guys, and like I said, it sounds like most everybody's really enjoying these stories, at least from the comments that I've been getting. But tonight we're going to talk about the ones that got away. So this one might be a little bit of a heartbreaking episode, and as I thought about these events in my life of when the ones of the ones that got away. I'm struggling tonight, man. Holy cow! I need more caffeine or something. Jeez, where's a Monster at when you need it? But it made me all sad when I started thinking about these ones that are the ones that got away, because man, they were kind of gut wrenching. So, but excited to share these stories with you, and I know that a lot of you guys out there have had these experiences, and hopefully you can kind of relate with some of these stories. So, Seth, I'm going to turn it over to you to kick it off. Why don't you share an experience that you've had where one got away?
Okay, well, we will go with my 2019 CWMU unit deer hunt. So we'll just get right into it. I drew the tag. The area I drew for was a large section of private land that was kind of a mixture of sagebrush, cedars, and agricultural fields. The deer would kind of move back and forth between, feed zones, sleep zones. They'd water on the property. There was multiple ponds. Anyways, only a 5-day hunt, but the CWMU program allows you to hunt in early November. So hunting bucks in November was really, really cool.
Yeah.
So second morning there, first morning, or I guess first day in general, was fairly quiet. Saw a few bucks, nothing I was really excited to shoot or anything like that. Second morning, right at daylight, driving to a point to glass, and as we did that, a pretty nice buck crossed the road directly in front of us just at light. Really nice buck on a public or a general season unit, but was just a little spindly and didn't have great forks, so I kind of decided to let him walk. I could have shot him standing on the dirt road 15 yards off the road, but I let him go. But as he left, we noticed there were more deer in the field he had crossed to. We threw our binoculars up, started glassing 3 or 4 does, and then all of a sudden this rack sweeps up out of the ag field. So it was weird. They had cut most of it, but there was a section they had left tall. And so for the most part, if the deer had their heads down, you could barely see their backs. But once they lifted their head, you could see what they were. This rack swings up out of the ag field growth there, and I just knew instantly. I'm like, that is a buck I want to take, no questions asked. not super wide, and he was actually only a 3-point on the one side, but just the math was just incredible. I mean, probably one of the heaviest deer I've ever seen, out and about hunting, especially with a tag and a gun in hand. He was out there, and these pivots are so big. He was out there about 750. And, I know there's plenty of people that can make that shot, but me personally, I didn't feel comfortable at that distance. And so we just kind of watched him, and I got a pretty good feel for him. Really heavy, big eye guards, about 23, 24 inches wide. Just a nice, squared up, heavy buck. And I had my heart set on him, man. I was like, well, this is what we're hunting till we get him. And so me and my old man, my dad, are kind of talking what we should do to try to get on him, see what he does. Maybe he lays down in that stuff, coming up with a game plan. And about that time, he just leaves these 6 or 7 does he was with and just starts walking slowly towards the south. Well, we're right at this edge of the field, and he's almost kind of walking. He's not walking to us, but he's walking kind of towards us. And me and my old man are like, well, he's going to cross this road, because there was a little tiny feed access road that the cattlemen used to access that hayfield. And the sagebrush on it was really tall, taller than I am. And that sagebrush ran down that road for, I don't know, 300 or 400 yards. Mm-hmm. And both me and my old man are like, just crouch. So we were both like, well, I'll just crouch down and run down this road and cut him off. And so I start shuffling, bent over so he can't see me, hustling down the line. And every step I got, I'm like, holy crap, this is going to work. He's coming. We're going to meet. This is going to be perfect. So I get to the last big sagebrush and squat down and poke my head out and range find him. And he was 266. Whew. And I was like, this is done. My hunt's done. This is game over. So I take my rifle and I stand up and put it on the fence post. It was a nice metal fence post, but right at the top they had this weird piece that was I shouldn't call it weird, but it was a piece holding the wires in place, so it kind of created an even better platform. It wasn't a dead rest, but I couldn't have asked for much better. Put the gun on the fence post, lined it up. I said, talking through myself, squeeze about right there, and I shot. And to this day, I don't know the real cause of it. I don't feel like I had buck fever at that point, but for whatever reason, I shot ridiculously high. High enough, my old man back behind me watching thought I had went through him. Thought the bullet went through him and kicked up dust on the backside.
Oh, uh-huh.
And this is this is kind of where everything falls apart. So I shoot, and for a brief moment, he just kind of stood there because I was so far off. He didn't know what happened. I was shooting a Ruger M77, and I've never had an issue ever. But when I pulled that trigger, for whatever reason, the floor plate, it has a drop clip.
Yeah.
The floor plate opened, and all my bullets fell on the ground. So now I have no bullets to reload, and he's standing there. So I'm digging around in the grass and the dirt of the road, and I'm just trying to slam shells in it, and then he takes off. I tried a shot. He was going up a wash, and I tried a shot, and a bullet hit way behind him. I was like, this gun's off. I've done something, I bumped the scope. So anyways, he goes just screaming at that point after that second shot. He was kind of trotting, and then he put it into hyperdrive, and I think he probably ran 3 counties over because he was just getting out of town. And so I was so flabbergasted. I'm like, well, a guy could miss, but I'm like, I couldn't have asked for anything pretty much better. I'm like, how do I miss that shot? So I was really beating up myself, and so I come walking back to my dad, and he's like, what the freak happened? Why were you digging around on the ground? Why didn't you shoot him the second time while he was standing there? All these questions. I'm like, I dropped all the freaking bullets on the ground. He said, what are you talking about? So we started talking about it and started inspecting the gun. And let's be honest, I had shot the gun 3 weeks prior in Idaho, killed a deer with it, shot fine, didn't really have any issues. Shot it right before we went on the hunt, no issues. I don't know why this did this, but anyways, it dumped all these bullets on the ground. So we start looking at it, and there's a screw up in there, a set screw, and it was pretty loose. So we adjusted the floor plate, tightened it up tight, called the landowner, said, hey, is there a place we can shoot safely? You don't want to, be shooting around your farmhands unless we're hunting. He brought us down to their range, shot it, dead on, working fine, floor plates tight, everything was fine. So I just, for the rest of the hunt, I just went through, I almost kind of had a paralysis by analysis.
Yeah.
I didn't want to shoot anything at distance. I didn't have any confidence in the gun. I didn't have any confidence in myself. And actually what got me out of that funk, we'll jump onto that in just a second. But anyways, at the end of the hunt, everything went well. I was talking to my uncle about it, and he has a ton of Rugers, does a ton of work on them. And he may have just been trying to make me feel better, but he claimed that if that set screw is loose, that actually doesn't allow the barrel to be floated properly. And so he believes that that gun did that, and I was so far off because that set screw was loose, which all comes back to our podcast last week of check your gear.
Yeah, exactly.
But
but you would think it was just fine though. If you just recently had shot it, everything was well.
Right,
so you
so
thought your gear was good.
Yeah, and it loosened. And the only thing I can figure is it loosened in the trip to Idaho. And I'll be honest, when I did shoot it the week before the hunt, I was sitting on a dead rest with the floor plate on something hard, so the floor plate could not open. So had I, put it in an actual vise where the floor plate was exposed, it may have dropped, and I may have been able to fix that prior to the hunt. But yeah, what got me out of that funk is the second to last day, we were driving back to our Airbnb. Yeah, I know, we talked about that in the podcast last week. We were driving back to the Airbnb, and the landowner had told us, he says, you obviously have a deer tag, you can only take one of those, but prairie dogs and coyotes are fair game. If you have a shotgun and you want to shoot some ducks, they're fair game. He was very accommodating. We were cruising back to the Airbnb, and we were still on his property, and my one buddy's hunting with us, like, there's a coyote, and it was running out through this open country, and it was a small dog. It was a young coyote. It was, like just probably on its first, time away from mom. And I skid the truck to the stop, grab the gun, put a bullet in it, pull up, and he's running. And I know how far he is because we ranged where he fell, but he was 206 running. And shot, one hit, bang, right behind the front shoulder, folded him up. And all my buddies, my dad, everyone's like, how do you miss a deer at 260 standing broadside, but you shoot a coyote on the dead freaking run? I'm like, not thinking about it. No worry of a big buck or just a coyote.
Yep.
So anyways, that kind of got me out of the phone because I was like, all right, I shot the rifle at the range, it hit on, I can hit a critter with it. And so I still ended up taking a really nice buck, but he still will never haunt my dreams. But even if I wouldn't have taken this other buck, he wouldn't have haunted my dreams like this 3x4.
Oh man,
still does.
They all do. All those ones that got away always seem to haunt you.
Yes.
Oh man, that's crazy though. Gosh, that does make sense though with that set screw coming loose. With it, it does change the flow of the barrel. I mean that makes sense. So, golly. Oh man, well that makes me all sad. This is going to be
still hurts my heart. But
this is going to be a sad episode.
At least I can blame it on the technical failure instead of myself missing something at 260 that was the size of it was a big alfalfa fed deer, man. He'd been living there all year. He was the size of a freaking heifer out there, and I still missed him.
Yeah, I don't have a good excuse for missing my first story. Mine, oh man. So this was I'll jump right into mine.
Yeah.
It was my last deer hunt, rifle deer hunt in Utah before I moved out here, out to Colorado. And so the way that I used to hunt when I lived in Utah was that I would pretty much just beat the mountains. I just put boot tracks down and just jump something up and shoot it. That's pretty much the way that I hunted. It's the way my grandpa hunted. It's just kind of the way that the only really way I knew how. I've learned better now. I like to glass now and actually, do things the right way. But
I mean, if you were killing them, there's no real right way.
that's exactly it. That's kind of what I was killing them, but I was also killing myself, man.
True.
I was beat. Every single hunt, I was like, man, this is hard. So I've kind of learned that work smarter, not harder way of hunting. But yeah, so I was way back up in some mountain range. I know very well, but I'd never really been this far up into the mountain range. It was a really hot summer, hot fall. The hunt in Utah is in October, and so really warm. And I thought, well, if they're going to be anywhere, they're going to be high. So I went to the top of this mountain and just kind of did what I always do. I started just hiking. I'd find a deer trail and I would hike that trail. And I was all by myself. My father-in-law was hunting with me. He had some physical issues and wasn't able to go hunt like that. So he was cruising around in his Jeep while I was doing this. He kind of dropped me off at a nice spot that I could do this. Anyway, so I was all by myself, just walking these deer trails, and got to about 3/4 the way up the mountain. Then I started just crossing the mountain range, and just going from draw to draw. Figured I'd find something in one of these draws, and every time I'd crest over, I'd kind of spend a little time, look through the draw, pull out my binoculars, and then I'd keep walking. And I'd actually jumped up a couple does here and there, and I thought, well, if I'm jumping up does, this is where they gotta be. So hopefully eventually I'll jump up a buck. Well, I got to this one draw, and I could see this spot, and I'm kicking myself because I didn't really spend the time to glass this spot. But I could see this little rock outcropping and then a lot of green bushes around it. I'm like, well, in this area, if there's green around it like that, it's got to be a spring, And I'll guarantee if I would have sat there and really spent the time to look, I probably would have picked up on some part of an animal. But I didn't. That's just not what I did back in the day. And so I did what I did, and I took off and started walking right towards that. I could see the trail that I was going to take led, and it went just a little bit to the left of where that was at. And so I kept my eyes on it, but I also kept looking everywhere else in case there was just something around working its way into there. I wasn't sure if there was any water in the spring, or if it was just where water came up to the surface or close to the surface where the plants get it. Anyways, I got over to it, and I wasn't more than 20 yards, maybe 30 yards away from that spot, and I was so close to it. I was like, okay, well, if there was something there, it would be gone by now. And so I wasn't quiet in any way, shape, or form. And sure enough, when I got to about that distance, just crash, boom, bang, all of a sudden this deer comes bouncing out of the bushes that were there, those green bushes. Like I said, had I looked at those bushes thoroughly, I probably would have seen it. But he comes jumping out of there and heads for the top of that little draw, that little crest right there that was only just on the other side of him and me. And I kind of went into that killer instinct mode, which I usually do when I see an animal and it's time to make it happen. I threw a bullet in, pulled up, and when I looked through my scope, the reason I know that, the reason why this guy haunts me so bad is I looked at him in my scope just to make sure it was a decent buck, and he was super heavy. And then the thing that kills me is he had cheaters on both sides sticking out, and that's what the image that I have in my head that won't ever go away is those two cheaters kicking out both sides. I don't know how wide he was. I mean, this was all in a matter of a few seconds, but he was just a heavy horn buck with these cheaters. And I swung my gun where I needed to be, pulled the trigger, and usually, like I said, I've done this many a times, do that and they drop. But he was in a hurry to get out of there, more so than other deer that I usually do that to, probably because I was so close to him, that he was moving out of there. shot, blew the rock up that was kind of by that spring where he was at. Uh, Shot way over his back. I mean, it wasn't even close. So I'd love to say it was the gun's fault, but it was more just me in the moment. Like, holy crap, this buck has cheaters. and and then by the time I came back, 'cause I shoot my 7 mag. By the time the recoil came back, he was gone. And so I rushed up over to that next ridge to see if I could see him before he got too far away, but he was nowhere to be found on the other side of that mountain. And oh man, I sat down there for a minute. I won't repeat the words that I said at the time because I try to keep this a pretty clean episode, but that still haunts me. That image, I can still see that image right now through my scope. It was unreal. So, dang mule deer, man, they make you crazy. The thing about mule deer is they hide so well. Like, you can literally be like right on top of them, and then boom, they're gone, and it's just, oh, it makes you crazy.
I've been told many a times why bow hunting, I'll come back to the truck and guy will be sitting nearby and say, "Hey, were you that kid that was just walking over there?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you walked past a great big buck, no more than 40 yards from you."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Don't tell me that." And he's like, "Yeah, I watched him. He heard you coming and he laid his head right down on the dirt and let you walk by, and then he got up and ran the other way once you got past him."
Wow.
I'm like, don't even tell me. Just
Yeah,
let me get in my truck and live in ignorance, man.
Exactly. I don't need to know that. Yeah, just let me go. Oh man, that's a killer. See, that's the thing with mule deer hunting is they will do that, and they hide so well. Elk can't really do that, so they don't hide like that. But man, I'd like to know how many deer 'cause the way that I used to hunt, I'd like to know how many deer I just walked past and never even knew they were there.
Or they got up and just quietly snuck around you,
Mm-hmm.
and you went up on the ridge, and he turned around and went back and laid right in the same bed he was laying in.
Yep, exactly. So that's why I've changed the way I hunt right there for that reason. I mean, I love getting up on a hill now and just glassing. I'll sit there with my tripod, my Vortex binos, and just glass. And I will pick apart the hillside now. I'll be so patient with it. And at the end of the day, my legs aren't killing me from walking 15 miles, and I've been more successful doing this as well. I'm making better shots. Like that shot, I mean, I've killed so many deer like that, but I could have hit that deer anywhere. I could have wounded him. Luckily, I did see that rock blow up, so I know that I didn't hit him. But still, it could have been a whole lot worse. And now I feel more ethical in my hunting nowadays.
Right. I mean, I've got some family. They don't just wander, kind of like you, but I've got a couple family members that they drive around on the ATV until they cut a big deer track. They don't even know like what buck it is, or they just know it's big because it's most likely a buck if it's big, and then they just get on that track and they follow it until they catch up to him.
Wow.
And they've killed some really nice bucks doing that, but they just basically dog them. Just walk and walk and walk until they catch up to him. So.
And I didn't even really mind the walking. It was just more the situation once you did jump that animal up.
They're on the go. They're doing everything they can to get away from you. It's definitely reactionary, but sometimes that's some of the best shots you can make sometimes is just not thinking about it too.
It is, and I feel better about those shots when I'm not thinking about it as far as like actually killing something, because like that killer instinct just gets in there. But when you can sit down and you range that animal at whatever yardage, whatever you're comfortable with, you can dial your scope in, check the wind. It's more of an ethical shot. The bad thing about it, like you said, it doesn't give you time to think about it, and that's not always a good thing either. But
right.
Yeah, shoot. What else you got? You got another one for us?
Yeah, so this one's kind of different in that I never even actually got a shot at him. So, back in 2011, I drew a limited entry deer tag, and I wanted to put in for the archery permit for this particular unit. But right around application time, I found out that my wife was pregnant and the baby was pretty much due on opening weekend of the bow hunt.
Seth.
So,
Seth.
what can I say, dude? It gets cold in the winter. All my kids are from winter babies. Um, so I decided, you know what? I'll just put him for muzzleloader. I won't draw it because I didn't have 100% chance. I had like a 40-60 or something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I won't draw it, and then next year I'll put him for the bow hunt. Well, I drew with muzzleloader.
Of course.
So I'm like, all right, well, not exactly the weapon I wanted, but a great unit. So I started scouting, all summer, obviously, but we really started scouting late July, early August, just before the bow hunt. And we went up into the very top of this one canyon, and the canyon was called Otts Canyon, so OTTS.
Uh-huh.
And so we ended up naming the buck that we found in this canyon Otts, or at least I did. I spent a lot of time on that hill looking at him. So this mountain, on the one side, it was just a normal-looking ridge, and then on the side I was looking on had this like 30 to 40 foot, almost like cliffy tabletop that tapered at the end, and there was about 10 or 12 cedars with a huge boulder. The first day I seen him, he was with 4 other bucks, and it was in the morning. And what they would do every morning I seen them pretty much, they would come up out of the bottom of this canyon, or about halfway up the ridge, there was a little steep. They would get a drink, I'm assuming, and then I would catch them coming out of that canyon. They would work their way down that tabletop, and then almost exclusively they would bed in those 10 or 12 cedars with the big boulder. And so this buck was, you couldn't ask for much more. He probably wasn't 30 inches wide. I guessed him at 28. Solid mass, beautiful forks, just a perfect 4-point, no cheaters. Great forks front and back. The real thing that got me really excited about him is he had great big eye guards, like 4-5 inch eye guards.
Jeez.
And I'm like, and the whole time I'm watching him every day, all through the month of August, even into the bow hunt. Like, I was up there scouting while other guys were hunting. No one ever bothered him. I was like, I'm going to kill this deer. I'm like, opening day, I'm going to sit right there on that cliff face and let him walk right down, and it's going to be game over. And so muzzleloader hunt in Utah starts in the tail end of September, usually like the 27th or the 28th of September. It got to be September 16th, and that was the last day I ever saw him.
Oh, man.
He was right there
course.
that morning, and then the following couple days. And that's the thing is, at that point, the bow hunt was over, so no one killed this deer. Like, it wasn't that a bow hunter beat me to him. So the following weekend I went out, and so there's 4 total bucks, him and his 3 little cronies. And I shouldn't say they were little. The one buck was actually pretty nice. They were all gone except the one buck that was the pretty nice buck that was with him stayed in that canyon the whole time. He was a 3x4, not super big, but a decent buck. That buck stayed there the whole time. The other 3, I don't know where they went. The big one, obviously, and we covered so much ground, checking canyons next door, multiple canyons away. What I think actually happened is the backside of that ridge, down lower in elevation, is a huge chunk of private with a spring, and I think it was probably just his normal migration or something around that time of year to protect himself. He just dropped into that thick cover and went and lived by that spring on the private, and no one ever bothered him. His eye guards and stuff were unique enough, just great big. I feel like as much time as I talked to people and being out there, if someone would have got him in the rifle or the muzzleloader hunt, I would have seen a picture of him, and I just never saw anything like him, especially in 2011. I don't think I ever saw anything from them guys out there in 2012 either. But just a beautiful, just the prototypical big 4-point, talking 180 class 4 point, 185, just a beautiful buck, and
Yeah.
never even got to look down the barrel of a gun at him or a side of a bow or anything else. I really wish I'd had a bow tag that year. Because all through the bow hunt, he was in the same spot pretty much every day.
Which is so weird because, I mean, well, mule deer are so patternable, like you would think that he would just continue to do that. So something disrupted him, whether that's a hunter or...
I don't know if it was a guy scouting like me, but
Yeah.
walked right into his bedroom and blew him out of there, and he just said, nope.
Something had to have happened like that for him to not continue that pattern.
And this is a possibility, but maybe a mountain lion killed him. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
I just for him to ghost, I don't know. I mean, they are sneaky, and they do some different things around that time where it shifts from, that early bow hunt into the middle of September. They can get a little weird and go into some thicker cover and be harder to pick up. But I don't know. I don't know what happened to him. But
man, that's interesting. Hey, that is heartbreaking though. When you track them and you do all the work.
I had it all planned out in my head, man. I'm like, I'm gonna have a great buck opening day. He's gonna do the same thing he's always done. He sure did.
Again, that's one of the things I love about mule deer hunting is you can do that. You follow him, you put in the work. You whether it's trail cameras, whether it's scouting, whatever it is. Yeah, you put in that work, and usually, come opening day, pretty much have a game plan to really make it happen. Now, there's so many things that can change that, but if you don't mess it up too bad, then you come back the next day and pretty much have the same situation to work with again. So, man. Well, I'll share one more, and this one is an elk story, which is the elk are not like that. Elk just go wherever the freak they want to go and do whatever they want to do. But so in Utah, I don't know, is it still this way, Seth? If you buy an antlerless cow tag or antlerless tag for archery, can you shoot a spike with that tag?
I believe so, but don't quote me exactly. But I still think that's a thing. Yes.
Okay, because it used to be that way. So I'd always buy that tag, really mainly looking for a spike and not a cow, just because I wanted to make it bow hunting is tough anyways, but make it a little bit tougher. Plus, it's always fun to kill something that's got male parts rather than girl parts. But anyways, I had bought this tag. It's an over-the-counter tag, and it was actually one of my first archery hunts that I'd ever done, and I spent a lot of time just kind of figuring out where they were at before the hunt, where I kind of planned my attack, and I really had basically the first weekend to do this hunt, just because of life, and I was young at the time, so girls and things like that were more of a higher priority. But at any rate, I had the first I think it started on a Friday. That first Friday, I had gone in where I'd seen a couple spikes before, and found them again. Actually, they were still in the kind of that same area, and that first day I put 2 stalks on, and didn't really get close on those ones. Definitely not. Didn't really have a quote unquote chance at the elk. But I felt like my confidence was building. I was like, okay, I'm getting to the point where, at least where I'm in these animals and can, I'm getting closer. That Saturday, that kind of went back to that same area, a little bit further south from where I was at, and I'd glassed up a huge herd of elk, which, as bow hunters know, a huge herd is definitely not in your advantage. It's a lot of eyes looking at you, and makes it a little difficult. But found this huge herd. There were 3 spikes in it, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get serious about this, and I'm gonna sneak in there. I'm gonna go old school archery hunting, take the shoes off, really try to make this happen on a spike elk. And I was taking it very serious. So I did. I took my shoes off and I followed this little old creek bed, and it was down. If you guys have been in southern Utah, some of those creek beds can get pretty dang deep where the water was running in the spring. So I was down in one of those and kind of just sneaking along here, and had sagebrush on both sides of the creek. So I was very well hidden. I was quiet. It was sand bed, so I not only did I not have my shoes on, but I was walking on sand, so it was super quiet, and I could hear them. So I got close enough that I could hear them walking around me just on the other side of the sagebrush, and I thought, oh man, now what am I gonna do? I can't really. If I climb out of this, I'm gonna make a lot of noise, and they're gonna go running. So I kind of sat there for a minute. I could hear them getting a little bit closer, a little bit closer, and then it got really silent, like really quiet. So I was like, what the freak? Did they? They couldn't have run, or I would have heard them. And so I kind of snuck up the creek bed, or the creek bank there, up to one of the sagebrush, which I felt like I could hide behind, and I did. I was hiding pretty well behind that. And I'm sitting there, and I pop out, and I look above the sagebrush, and I could see a few cows way in the distance. I was like, where are all the other elk at? Where's the spikes at that I wanted? I turn around, and on the other side of the creek bed, like literally, I mean, maybe like, gosh, 15 feet away from me, is this spike just staring at me. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And you guys know, I mean, Seth, at that point you're kind of screwed. You're like, well, what do I do? So I sat there really still, and I just slowly but surely kept turning my bow, and I knew as soon as I went to draw back that he was going to be gone. But I turned and turned and turned, just slowly. Felt like an eternity, but it was probably only like about 2 minutes it took me to turn to where he was at. And he was just sitting there just staring at me. It's a spike, so they're young. If this would have been a big bull, he'd have been gone the second he saw me come out of that creek bed. But and then as soon as I went to draw back, boom, he was gone, and he took every single elk that was with him. There had to have been at least 30 elk in that herd, and they were just like, I mean, dust was going everywhere. All I could see was just a cloud of dust, and they were gone. And, oh man, had I come up on the other side, or had I been a little bit more patient, or I don't know, made a few different decisions, I probably could have got to a point where either I got ahead of them before they got to that point, or if I would have popped up a little bit early out of the creek bed, I could have got a shot off on him. But it just worked out that I popped up right where he was sitting at, and my chances were over. So it sucks.
That is a microcosm of bow hunting right there.
It really is. That's every bow hunter that's listening to the story. He's like, oh yeah, I got one of those.
Yeah, the only other one I had that didn't make the cut. I hunted him in 18, and it was a mule deer, big 4x4, general season unit. Had him 4 or 5 times within 60 yards and never got a shot off.
Oh wow.
For whatever reason, bad angles, whatever. So,
dude,
yeah.
60, 70, that's a long shot with a bow. I've been doing a lot of 3D archery shoots lately. I'm going to go on a tangent here. But I've been doing a lot of these 3D archery shoots lately, and I'm shooting 50 to 70 yards at these targets, and it's amazing. Like, yeah, you can hit the target, but is it going to be a kill shot? And what are you going to be doing? Are you just going to be wounding these animals, or that's a long shot. So I know for myself, I've got to start practicing these longer shots and be more comfortable with them, at least out to 60 yards.
Yeah, I shoot one set of 20 at the beginning of the year to make sure I'm on at 20, and then I never shoot closer than 40.
Yeah,
the rest of the year.
That's what I like watching Cam Haines, because that's he'll shoot those 100+ yard shots, but he'll make the comment that I'm not shooting an animal at that. But if I'm comfortable in my backyard shooting 120 yards, well, when that 60-yard shot comes, it's going to be nothing. It's going to be like, oh yeah, this is easy. He's close to me. I'm going to knock him down. So,
yep, I had, like I say, he was 60 or closer for 4 times or 5 times. I can't remember. The one time, if he'd have followed his little buddy, they would have passed me at 16 yards. His little buddy walked past me at 16, and that big buck turned and took a different trail and didn't follow his little buddy.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's
Oh
both.
gosh, it is. That's hunting, really, in general. And like I said, I'm sure everybody that's listening to this podcast is like, "Yep, I've had these experiences," and guys would love to hear them. So please reach out to us on social media. You can leave a comment on the podcast platform that you're listening on. We'd love to hear your guys' stories. And if you'd be interested in jumping on and telling us your story, we'd love to have you guys jump on and tell some of your stories on this podcast. So we're gonna make this one a little bit shorter than we've done in the past few weeks. We're gonna probably stop right about here, and we're only about 40 minutes in. Seth, that's like a world record for you and I.
That was a quick one.
Man, Seth's really long-winded, guys. I apologize.
Yeah,
He gets just talking.
I can tell stories for hours.
No, I hope you guys are.
Wind bag over here.
No, I think people are enjoying it. At least from what I've heard, people are enjoying these, and I hope that you guys can kind of relate with some of these stories, and they're entertaining and relatable. And if you guys have any other experiences or stories or questions that you guys have that you want us to cover in the podcast, let us know. We'd love to cover it and share our stories, our information, and be that ultimate resource for you guys. So before we stop, I want to send another shout out to Vortex. We want to thank them for everything that they do. Go check them out, vortexoptics.com. Amazing stuff, guys. They have something for everybody. So, and everything that they have is good quality stuff, and it's backed by that VIP warranty. So, if you guys have any questions about Vortex, let us know. We can get you in touch with the right people if we can't answer your questions. We're kind of becoming gurus of Vortex, so we're able to answer a lot of the questions as well. But all right, guys. Well, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and share it with friends. And that's all I got. Seth, anything else from you?
Nope, I'm good. See you guys.
Cool. Thanks. See you guys.